Although there has been a huge surge in mobile device usage, not everyone can experience the luxury of owning one. This is even more so for those in low-income areas, specifically within the developing world. So in order to progress in mobile education, the technology and devices that need to be used must be within the means of the student or their family. A study by Scott Motlick, Asia has seen an increase in mobile phone usage in education, with M-learning acquiring significant prevalence. Over 90% of participants in Motlick's study owned a mobile phone themselves and used them to respond to quizzes through SMS messaging and was shown through a projector in the classroom. Being a Filipino Australian allows me to see how mobile devices are utilised in both the developing and developed world. Whilst living in the Philippines, we were considered wealthier than most, but incredibly underprivileged compared to the standards of living here in Australia. During this timeline of my life, those who owned mobile phones in the Philippines usually only had the standard kind, where it would have the most basic necessities of a mobile phone, for example, for calls, texts, and the time. Unfortunately, most are yet still to understand the potential of using mobile devices in education. However, with devices become more affordable, most if not all students will own a mobile device to use in an educational setting in the near future. Generally though, people were satisfied with the low affordances of the mobile phone. You can imagine the surprise when I saw the changes in not only the higher amount of income, but how lavish mobile devices were in Australia. Although it would be misleading to say Australians are more materialistic than Filipinos, Australia tends to be a more competitive nation that exists within not only the hierarchy of social status and wealth, but in the general values most Australians correspond with. This national competitiveness can be seen in the 2016 World Competitiveness Yearbook, where Australia had taken the place of rank 17 out of 61 economies. Through this guide, you hopefully will be able to consider and analyse how those learning in developing countries are able to adopt mobile learning as part of their daily learning approach. This includes the importance of high affordability within these areas in order to allow access for as many students as possible. More importantly, I hope you will be able to use this guide and apply it to your own learning approach to excel in your own studies, particularly for UWA law students. Over time, we have continuously analysed how students can learn in the most efficient ways within school walls and have seen changes applied and practiced in our modern schools today. A particular educational approach that is being currently practiced in the classrooms of Australian universities is social constructivism within law tutorials. Social constructivism is a theory that acknowledges social practices as crucial in effective learning within a classroom. In these tutorials, discussion among students and teachers is heavily encouraged to share ideas and information within each other. According to Milutinovich Jovana, applying social constructivism in practice rather than isolated activities, such as information transmission, provides solid guidance in amplifying educational performance. Information transmission is generally considered as the most outdated approach, due to the lack of engagement within both students and teachers consecutively. Although this method is still widely used as it is the fastest way to deliver content, several studies have concluded that deeper approaches to learning compared to transmission show higher quality learning outcomes. Fortunately, since we are quite privileged as university students in Australia, we have access to many different types of mobile technologies to accentuate our learning. Mind mapping is particularly effective for the law course to extend reasoning and theories of why people commit the crimes they do. Mind maps are effective for most courses and topics of education, with studies showing positive outcomes, particularly for executive students. Ebooks and educational apps are especially significant in acquiring the information and knowledge needed for the course in a short amount of time. Around 27% of American students read ebooks in 2015 compared to traditional paperbacks, according to the Pew Research Center, and the number is rising globally. The Google Translate app is also useful as it has an augmented reality feature in which it analyzes text using the mobile device camera and translates it from one language to another. Augmented reality apps deepen the learning through the active experience it generates. Finally, multimedia recording is relatively crucial, especially in regards to the recording of real-life cases in court, allowing students to examine it from within their home or in classrooms. Here is general feedback from one of the other students who I study law with as well. Please pause to read the full feedback. In regards to Andila's response, I just want to say thank you. I'm glad that I've provided some information that is relatively helpful to another student that I study the same courses with. Thank you for listening to this presentation.